Welcome to another episode of the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights. My name is Francisca Beltran, and I work with the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights as a community outreach coordinator. Our office investigates allegations of discrimination for employment, housing, and public accommodations. Our office also provides training and education regarding civil rights laws and relevant topics. So thank you for being with us today. Another topic with the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights show. Today I have two wonderful guests, Leah and Amber, and we will be hearing a little bit more about what Friendship Home does. So welcome to both of you very much for taking the time to be here. Will you please introduce yourselves to our community?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us today. My name is Leah Droege. I'm the Executive Director at Friendship Home, and I've been there for 18 years.
Congratulations.
Thank
I know
you.
you're new into the role, so that is awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. My name is Amber Dean. I am the Assistant Program Director of Housing at Friendship Home, and I am going on my 6th year.
6 years. Wow. That is awesome. So I had never met you. I used to work at Friendship Home. That's how I know Leah. So that's awesome that you're both. Thank you both very much for being here. So we've been doing a series about housing, but I'd really like for the community to know, what is Friendship Home and how is it that you serve our community?
That's a great question. Well, how about I'll start, and if there's more you want to add, you can do that.
Absolutely.
So Friendship Home provides safe, confidential emergency shelter for survivors of domestic violence and their children. We also provide transitional housing, which is a longer-term stay for safety and stability. And then within the last few years, we've started a rapid rehousing program as well, which is survivor-leased housing with supportive services. And with all of that, we have crisis services as well. So that includes safety planning, crisis intervention. We have a health navigator who helps people connect to primary or behavioral health care. So many different components. On average, every day we're sheltering around 120 people, adults and children.
Wow.
But we're serving about 200 when you look at pre-shelter and post-shelter and other ways we're providing support.
Wow, that's a lot of services and a lot of people that you're serving, which is great for the community and what we need. So one of the things that you talked about, transitional services and housing services, how does that help our community in the long run, Amber, as far as, especially when it comes to domestic violence?
Sure. So our transitional housing program is great because it allows some of our survivors a little bit more time in the transitional program. It could be for many different barriers. Maybe they're needing to obtain some employment. Maybe they are working on citizenship. Maybe a lot of the issues that we see in transition are just some more barriers. Maybe paying off some back debt. Maybe having a hard time finding a place to stay due to maybe previous rental history, criminal background, maybe their credit score. So that is what the transitional program is typically used for. And then with different housing opportunities at Friendship Home, like rapid rehousing, it allows those individuals that are facing some of those barriers we are allowed to give them a little bit more financial assistance, help them throughout their journey, in hopes that they become self-sufficient or able to take over their lease on their own or their rent on their own when our assistance is complete.
So you encompass everything, a little bit of everything when you're helping those families, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds wonderful. And I know you talked a little bit about some of the barriers that some of the families may face, but being very specific with housing, as you well know, a lot of people, even though they're trying to be supportive when it comes to domestic violence, but can you talk a little bit about what are some of the barriers that families face when there is DV in their life?
Yeah, I'll start. I think a big piece is maybe police calls. There's a lot of police calls to their unit. Maybe they're reluctant to contact LPD because of the stigma that comes along with domestic violence. I think that what I have witnessed working with housing is that an individual that has got a lot of police contact, landlords are more reluctant to rent to them due to the police contact on their. Sometimes there's evictions. They're facing evictions because landlords are asking them to vacate the premises due to the police contact or due to maybe the noise complaints. And so that is another barrier for the individuals, because it's hard for a landlord to understand what domestic violence really looks like, and for them to really understand what domestic violence is, and maybe more reluctant to give them another try moving forward in their own place.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have anything to add?
Well, I'm just thinking, domestic violence is so complex, and as Amber said, from the outside looking in, sometimes it's challenging to understand why someone cannot draw a boundary or just ask someone to leave and enforce that. And we know with domestic violence that an abusive partner, there's so much control and coercion. A lot of times the survivor might be financially dependent on that person to continue to pay rent or provide for children.
Absolutely.
A lot of times there's isolation where the survivor is not allowed to work outside the home or has a limited ability to do so, and so they really are dependent in those ways. And so oftentimes we see survivors taking multiple times trying to create that space and leave in order to exit the relationship permanently.
Absolutely. So the support from Friendship Home is very essential when families are trying to make those transitions. And you talked a little bit about the landlords, and I think the key here is landlords. What can landlords do to better understand what domestic violence is and how they can better help or, be a little more supportive of the families who do have DV?
Absolutely. I always think when we talk to anyone in the community, I tell people you don't have to know everything, you just have to know where to start, and we are one of those places you can start. So whether that's a landlord, a concerned neighbor, a family member or friend, or the survivor themselves, they can always call our 24/7 number, and we'll have that information for you at the end here.
Sure. Do you work with specific landlords when it comes to trying to place families in their own place?
We do have a case manager, a couple case managers who have built some really good relationships with landlords in the community, and we tend to use them quite a bit. And they are very familiar with Friendship Home, very familiar with the program, the housing program, rapid rehousing, and willing to learn. We are in the process of trying to connect with more landlords in the community to get them on board, and I would love to have one-on-one conversations with any landlords in the community that are unsure on how to take the next step to just broadening their knowledge on domestic violence and just having a better understanding overall. I think it would be helpful for the landlords and for the victims that we're serving.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is if they were to reach out to Friendship Home as landlords to be able to be to better serve families with DV, they can get a hold of you, Amber.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
have those conversations and dispel some of the myths that come with DV and especially housing.
Absolutely.
Because it's probably a lot of us who have worked in direct services know that it's always difficult to make sure that families are maintained in the home when there is a DV in their lives. If you were able to talk to the community directly, what would you ask of the community? What kind of support would you ask from our community members?
Oh my goodness, I think there's so many ways to be involved with our work, and we know we couldn't do what we do without the support of the community. So first of all, thank you to anyone who gave. We recently had our Safe Quarters event. It was our 20th anniversary event. And it was the first time being back live in person after a couple years virtual. So thank you to anyone who answered your door and talked with our volunteers or maybe sent in some donations afterwards. We really honestly could not do our work without that.
Absolutely.
So financial support, in-kind support. So those families that are moving into their own homes, a lot of times they have limited resources. They might need furniture in order to do that. They might need a bed for their child. Groceries, all of those things are things that people need. And I think just being willing to educate, as Amber said, if you would be interested in a conversation with us, if you see a way that we could work together and engage with one another, we would love to have another conversation.
What if there were somebody out in the community who was willing to donate, for example, a bedroom set? Does Friendship Home have the capability of storing furniture if somebody wanted to give furniture to Friendship Home for a family?
Sometimes,
yeah, it just depends. Sometimes We don't have a lot of storage space, but we do definitely need it, so we try to make it work. Absolutely. Our we also furnish all of our single-family shelters that are scattered throughout the city, and also our communal living shelter. And so a lot of our donations are going into those units to get them ready for the families that are going into those apartments. There are a few resources out in the community for more of the rapid rehousing participants. And the case managers connect them to some of those resources. But a lot of times they're using ours as well.
That is awesome. I know that it's such a great resource for the community, and I certainly appreciate knowing that the resource. For any community members that might be seeing this video right now that might be in need of your service, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Well, you can contact our crisis line. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 402-437-9302. An advocate is always available to take that call. You can go to our website. On our website, there is a space for you to complete a submission and send one in, and we will contact you that way. You can also check out our social media platforms, and you can contact us and send us a message that way. So lots of ways to reach out to us. All of our email addresses are all of the supervisor email addresses, or director, assistant director email. Contact information is also on our website. So if you wanted to submit something individually to somebody personally, or to go that route, you can also do that as well.
Now, I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to do this, because I know this is a type of work that it comes from the heart, and it's hard to see some of the situations that our community are affected by DV. And so I appreciate you both coming here and describing some of the barriers that families do go through when it comes to domestic violence. And I hope that with this video, if you're a landlord, they can always use your assistance for families. So take that as a small plea to please reach out to Amber. And Leah, congratulations on your job, but thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you for having me.
So with that, we wrap another session of the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights show. And with that, we all have rights.